Today I'm joined by Peter Clausi, VP Capital Markets at Silver Bullet Mines. Peter, always a pleasure to catch up. How are you doing today?
Busy days, my friend, but it's nice to see you again.
Definitely. So this week you've announced some excellent gold and silver concentrate values from the King Tut Mine in Arizona. Before we go into that, given you only acquired the project a few months ago, I wondered if you could quickly introduce it to us and its potential.
Sure. We bought it because two of our employees worked it in the 1980s. There is no written documentation on it, but the numbers that they recall for having worked it, extracted gold, processed the gold, and sold it were spectacular numbers. And we like those people. We trust them. So we bought the King Tut Mine. Cost us no shares, no royalty, and just a little bit of cash. So as part of the due diligence on that before we bought it, we took 50 tons of waste rock from site. Remember, this is waste rock, not vein material. Waste rock to our mill in Arizona, and we processed the waste rock. And make sure I get the numbers correct. The waste rock was running 0.3 ounces a ton gold, and some of the samples ran 1.8 ounces a ton gold. That's pretty cool. We then turned that 50 tons into a concentrate. And out of the concentrate, we got 38 ounces of gold per ton, which is an astonishing number, gross economic value of roughly $120,000. So yes, we'll buy that property, which we did. The field team immediately went in, timbered up the property, put on the fireproof paint, which is painfully expensive. And because they worked it in the 80s, they know where to go. They know where the vein is. Like the vein is 2 to 3 feet wide, and there's visible free gold in the vein. So as part of this process, we're going to sell the concentrate resulting from that process. So we had to get a third-party multi-element analysis, not just to validate what our lab says is in there, but our lab can't test for things like mercury and arsenic and lead and the PGMs. So we get a multi-element analysis. I think we look at 54 or 52 elements. We've been backlogged. We've been at the lab. We've been at the lab for 3 weeks, paid for rush. The problem is that everybody with a gold project right now thinks that it's the next Hemlo.
Yeah.
So they're going out to the field, grabbing a couple of samples, sending it to the lab, and the labs are working there as fast as they can, doing the best they can, but they're backlogged right now. This happened when gold went from $300 to $800, and we all lost our minds. It happened when gold ran to $1,800. It ran in the mid-2000s. It's happening again. Projects that were not economical suddenly are believed to be economic, and so there are more samples in the lab, and viable projects like ours get pushed along the line. We finally made it to the front of the line. The other problem we had at King Tut, great problem to have, is that our major elements ran over the detectable limits. We don't know how much by, but they ran over the detectable limits. So we had to run a second different test on those samples to get the right numbers so that we knew exactly what was in there. And what the third-party independent lab told us was in there was around 23 ounces per ton gold. So 23 ounces a ton gold, $3,500 an ounce. That's a very valuable ton of concentrate.
Absolutely, yeah. I think your CEO, John, summed it up in the news release saying it was absolutely incredible. So with that in mind, can we talk about what the next steps are from here?
Sure, we have a lot of next steps. We're still waiting on the multi-element analysis on the concentrate from the Super Champ mine. You'll recall that we have a buyer.
Yep.
We've signed an agreement. All we have to do now, after having processed the material from the Super Champ, is to send that buyer a multi-element analysis from an ISO independent lab. Same problem as at Super Champ. Labs are backlogged. No matter how much you pay for rush and how well-intentioned the labs are, there are backlogs. So we are waiting on that. Once we have that, we can send the notice to the buyer, and then under the contract, the buyer will send us 90% of the gross economic value of that sample, of that shipment. We then ship it to the buyer. The buyer processes it, and we adjust for the remaining 10% within, I believe, 45 days. But while that's going on, we can process more material, whether from the King Tut or the Super Champ. So this is a repeatable process to revenue. It shouldn't take 6 months this time.
Okay, understood. So with the material from both Super Champ and King Tut going through the mill, will it require further upgrades to accommodate the greater volume?
From the beginning, if you go back and read the 43101 when the company went public, it's always talked about the mill being modular. Modular means it's Lego. I can take another couple of bricks and add them on and increase the size of the mill, the throughput. That's not quite as easy as Lego, and I hope I don't step on it in the middle of the night. But we've always said that we can increase the size of our mill from 125 tons per day to 350 tons per day. We're having those discussions right now with engineering firms. And we're also discussing whether we buy the equipment to allow us to process material like copper, like lead. Right? That will require us to bolt on not just bigger, but different. So we're looking at costs, we're looking at tariffs, we're looking at timelines, and we are looking to increase the size of the mill.
Great, cool. So there's a process, there's a next steps in place for increasing that capacity. So
right.
Back at the projects, will you also be completing more exploration at King Tut to learn more about the vein that was historically mined?
It's kind of funny. We don't need to, quote, explore in the traditional sense. We know where the vein is. We've tracked it for 1,000 feet. We have excellent people who've worked that vein. They know where it is. They know where it bends, where it dips and pinches and swells. So the adit is built. If you look at the news release, there's a picture of the adit. And the boys are going in. They're going to blast. They're going to haul material. They're going to process material. And we will sell that resulting gold with a little bit of silver concentrate to the buyer that provides us with the best deal. Right? It's not necessarily the highest price. It's the best deal. FOB the mill. I'm not in the shipping business. I don't want to have to worry about shipping to other countries. And there are a lot of moving parts in a transaction like this. So whoever gives us the best deal, that's who we'll sell to.
Great. Yeah. So backlog permitting, all the next steps are in place for both Super Champ and King Tut in terms of that.
And the Washington mine up in Idaho. People forget about that, but as great as the Super Champ is, and as surprisingly wonderful the King Tut has been, the Washington mine in Idaho might be better than both of them. Remember, this was mined and when silver was 70 cents an ounce. Nobody wants silver at 70 cents an ounce. So the geologists at the time very carefully mapped it out, blocked off the silver. There's 120,000 tons, averaging between 30 and 90 ounces of silver per ton. Bonanza silver is colloquially deemed 30 ounces a ton. So our lowest number is Bonanza silver, averaging up to 3 times Bonanza silver. And there's about 1/3 of an ounce of gold in there for good measure, like a little bit of garlic in a good pasta. So we've hired an independent contractor who's already gone 90 feet into the side of the hill, built a new adit, timbered it up, painted it with the fireproof paint, which is painfully expensive, and we'll start hauling material out of that mineralized material at the Washington mine. We're in negotiations with the mill to process it. And if we don't get the answer we like, we'll just build our own mill. Right? Haul material out, stockpile it, build our own mill, process it at our own mill in Idaho. We'll have cash flow out of the other properties, and having cash flow gives you power because you have options.
Absolutely. So that work at Washington's taking place in parallel with the developments at the other two projects we've discussed.
Yeah. So there aren't a lot of juniors out there with 125 million shares issued outstanding. Call it 28 cents a share the last time I looked. With 3 mines in production, and we own our own mill, which gives us incredible control over our costs.
Great. Well, that all sounds very exciting. I look forward to hearing more as all of the projects develop. For now, though, Peter, thank you again for your time.
One last thing. I did this yesterday with another group. And they said, "You have anything to add?" I always have something to add. But we made a production decision on the Buckeye when silver was $17 an ounce. And we didn't have a resource estimate, didn't want one, didn't have a reserve, indicated, measured, none of it. But we internally believed we would make money at $17 an ounce. Imagine what my spreadsheet looks like at $42 an ounce.
Yeah, I mean the metal price environment really is favoring companies like yours at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, perfect timing. Just combination of incredible hard work and a little bit of luck.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Peter.
Thanks for your time.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.